Hello lovely humans, my name is Marvin, and guess what? I managed to successfully sue Mario! Woo! I know, right? And I managed to get only $100 out of it. Aw. Well, while I won't be able to rebuild my specialty ladder store anytime soon, I did manage to use those funds to buy something pretty sweet. If you want to see what that sweet thing is, check out the card in the top right. But enough stalling. It's time to continue my series where I play and rank every game Nintendo's ever published. Today we'll be talking about games they published in 1986, which, like I said in my last video in this series, was the year they fully released the NES across North America. If you want to know more about that, check out that video. But back in Japan, Nintendo released a major add-on for the Famicom, a big brick that the console actually sat on top of called the Disk System. Basically, it used proprietary floppy disks, aka those things that serve as the save icon in games, in order to house games, and it launched with a quaint little game that you probably never heard of. I'll let you know when we get to that. Though since the Disk System never released outside of Japan, any games released for it that we got were ported down to the NES, which makes me question why they even bothered making the thing in the first place. But speaking of games, let's get into those. This year, Nintendo only published 6 games total, which is pretty surprising. I think this is the quietest year of releases Nintendo's ever had, but this is definitely an outlier, and I still have plenty to say about these. So before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more of this series, and let's go already! So the first game we're covering today is a light gun game. Been a hot minute since I played one of those. This is Gumshoe, and unfortunately it's not the Gumshoe you're probably thinking of. The plot is that Stevenson, the titular detective, has had his daughter kidnapped by the local mafia boss, King Dom, who requests that he bring him 5 Black Panther diamonds within 24 hours if he ever wants to see her again. And instead of cooperating with the police or something, Stevenson just goes, "Fuck it, time to go mining," and off he goes to find some diamonds. Now considering the plot and the fact that it's a light gun game, would you guess that this is maybe an on-rail shooter or something? Cause it's not. It's an endless runner. Damn, Nintendo is really ahead of the curve on this one. So another question for you. What do you think this game is like? Cause the first 2 things that came to my mind were Super Mario Run and Flappy Bird. Weird combination, I know, but stick with me for a sec. This is a side-scroller where Stevenson runs to the right automatically, like Super Mario Run, or whatever 2D endless runner you can think of, and the goal of each stage is to keep going until, at a random point, a black diamond will spawn, which I certainly wish a priceless diamond would randomly appear on my walks, and once you pick it up, you then just need to get to the end of the stage. And it's like Flappy Bird in 2 ways. The first is that you only need 1 button to control this, that being the trigger of your light gun, aim it at Stevenson and fire to make him jump. The second way is that, if you keep firing on Stevenson, he'll just keep rising higher and higher until he hits the ceiling. And that's literally all there is to the controls. Once again, Nintendo's ahead of the curve here, since most modern endless runners are controlled with just 1 finger. Thumb. I'm not sure how you do that with a gun, but anyway, even though this is basically played with just 1 button, there is challenge to this one. Firstly, you only have a limited number of bullets, but you can get more by making Stevenson run or jump into balloons, which is all fine and dandy until they end up floating to the atmosphere and something pops them and it literally starts raining bullets! Also, why are they in balloons in the first place? I don't know, but anyway, if you keep hitting these, you won't have to worry about bullets. And the second bit of challenge is the absolute barrage of bullshit that comes at you from all sides with little chance to react! I mean, it's goddamn ridiculous how much garbage is thrown at you. Bottles, cards, boids, rocks, planes, fish, sharks, jellyfish, more boids, sea urchins, bombs, giant grasshoppers, bees, rhinos, goddamn Gamera, and these skull blocks strewn throughout the levels, all of which kill Stevenson in 1 hit, but he just jogs along without a care in the world. I mean, you can shoot down all of these, except for the death blocks, but firstly, most of these come at you way too fast, so you only have a split second to hit them, and it's even worse when it's your first time encountering an obstacle, and secondly, if you actually try to shoot everything, you'll likely have a seizure. Remember, Zapper games work by turning the screen black when you pull the trigger and flashing a white box for a split second, and in the last level especially, it'll throw a lot of shit your way, which means constantly flashing imagery. Oh, but you want to see the worst of it? At the end of the final level, by the way there's only 4 levels of this, thank dog, Stevenson gets a machine gun, ho ho ho, and uses it against the only boss in this game, Zuli, some sort of sea cyclops thing, and Stevenson will fire automatically. All you have to do is make him jump so he hits its eyeball a few times, so you need to juggle him while also making sure to destroy his projectiles, which is very hard to do, and when you beat him, you get constant flashing lights across the whole screen as the monster dies. Jesus Christ! And what do you know? It had the last diamond! Time to fork these over to King Dawn, save Stevenson's daughter, and never play this game again! Seriously, I haven't played a lot of light gun games in my time, but I think I consider this the worst one by far. D rank. Well, let's hope this next game doesn't get my blood boiling. It's a Japanese exclusive. Been a while since I played one of these as well. And also has an official English name, The Mysterious Murasame Castle. And this is a first for this series in two ways. Firstly, it's our first Disk System game, though it's not the first ever released. We'll get to that soon. And secondly, it's our first game with save games, meaning you could easily continue where you left off if the console was turned off. Thank dog. Great, create a save game? Let's start. Wait, change side B? The hell's that mean? Did you have to remove the floppy disk and turn it upside down with this thing? Out of curiosity, I checked the game on NESW, and you don't have to deal with this. It automatically jumps to the game. Well, first you have to deal with a loading screen, cause Disk System games had those. So how the hell did I do this in RetroArch? Okay, looks like I have to press L1 on my controller. Let's do that, and... Oh, you gotta be shitting me. I keep pressing L1, but this message keeps popping up. Well, when all else fails, randomly mash buttons! Oh! Hey! I don't know what I did, but who cares? So like I said before, it just plunks into the first level, but apparently, the plot is an alien, what else, takes over a statue in the titular castle, and takes over said castle along with 4 neighboring castles. You, as a samurai apprentice named Takamaru, who's now named Marvin and will go down as the greatest samurai who ever lived, is sent to infiltrate the castle. But you think you can just walk into a castle taken over by an alien? No, stupid! First, you gotta travel to each of those 4 other castles I mentioned earlier, then you gotta traverse to the back of them, kill their lords, steal their balls, and then you can go to Murasame Castle and kill the alien. But let's step back a bit for a second and talk about the gameplay. This is a top-down adventure game where you go from screen to screen, which, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting some weird deja vu out of this. Have I seen this type of game somewhere before? I'm sure it'll come back to me. Anyways, each castle is separated into 2 levels, one outside and one inside. The outside levels you just need to get to the end. You do the same with the inside levels, but fight a boss at the end. And this alien must be scared of me, as he should be. That means he's sending a whole army after me. Various ninjas, other samurai, boydmen, and there could be a bunch of them on screen at a time, throwing stars and bombs and fireballs and tornadoes. And all you have to fight back is a katana for those that get close, and an infinite amount of throwing knives. Where the hell is he keeping all of those? And you can kill whatever these things are to get new throwing weapons, like stars and fire. Hell yeah! Oh, I hate to break it to you, but that's not enough. Wait, what? Oh. Oh. Yeah, I'm getting my ass handed to me. There's just too much to handle as you are. And I gamed over and got sent back to the start of the current level a lot. How the hell are you supposed to beat this? Well, I've been shooting a whole bunch trying to defeat all the ninjas, and sometimes I get some kind of power-up when shooting certain things like this sign, and the same power-up spawns here every time, which makes me wonder if there are more hidden power-ups that I'm simply not finding, and I'm not making too much progress without them, so eventually I gave in and looked up the locations of the items. And some of you will probably call me a cheater or something for that, but firstly, there's no indication of where an item is hidden, so how else are you supposed to find them naturally than by shooting randomly? Secondly, people looked up solutions to games and magazines back in the day. This is no different, even if it's in a different form factor. And thirdly, this game is still hard even with all these items. A spread shot for your projectiles, health refills, a screen nuke? Doesn't matter. With all the enemies and projectiles that fill the screen, you're gonna lose all 3 of your health points, die, respawn having lost all your power-ups, and probably die again soon after. But I mean, I can't be too harsh on this game. I'm sure there's a good one underneath all the bullshit. It controls decently, it's fun to spam projectiles, especially the fireball, and the fact that you can put it down and try again another time risk-free, at the time, was pretty nice. But I don't know, man, I think this is just getting the C rank, personally. Okay, time to wind down with a nice relaxing game of pro wrestling. So, let's see what fighters we have to work with. Fighter Hayabusa from Japan. Okay, nice. Starman from Mexico? Why the question mark? I'm not gonna say that because I feel like I'll be cancelled if I do. Giant panther from the US? Okay, nothing wrong here. Seaman, what the fuck? And King Slender. Since when did Slender Man become royalty? Alright, first up I'm gonna play as Starman, and while I attempt to pummel this guy, I'll explain some stuff. You, of course, only have two buttons to work with. A does a kick, and B does a quick jab. You use these moves, as well as others that you use with various button combinations and timings, which I found in the manual, and there's quite a few, to knock down your opponent. Once they're knocked down, you can press B to pick them back up, or A to pin them, after which you hope they don't get up before the ref counts to 3. Eventually, I won a match, and this is where I learned that this is the origin of the winner is you meme! Yes, the one from the mid-2000s, in a game officially developed and published by Nintendo! What? Whew. Well, anyway, my next match was against Mr. Ethnic Stereotype, and this match went horribly. No matter how many times I kicked this guy to the ground, and no matter how many times I pinned him, he wouldn't stay down. The ref would barely get to say 2, and he'd get right back up. Then he threw me outside the ring, because you can do that in this game, and while I did manage to get a cool move in on him, somehow, I lost because I was outside the ring for too long. That's fine. I was allowed to do one more match, this time against Giant Panther, and it kinda went the same way. I'd kick him, I'd pin him, he'd get up after just 1 second. And he was extra annoying because he'd get right up in my face and deck me constantly, enough that eventually one punch would knock me down. Jeez. And guess what? I lost and got another game over. At this point I was getting pretty frustrated and was ready to give this game a low ranking. But then, I had an epiphany. At the start of every match, whenever the computer knocked me down, they'd always pick me back up, but a few minutes later, they'd then always pin me, which got me wondering if this was tied to some sort of stamina or health system or something, and that line of thinking led me to do an experiment. I ended up going Mr. Ethnic Stereotype for this one, and I did just one line of actions. Kick him down, pick him up. Kick him down, pick him up. Over and over and over and over. And after a few of those, I kick him down and pin him. And sure enough, it took slightly longer for them to get up, but it was enough to prove my hypothesis was going somewhere. So I kept repeating the process until eventually it worked! I won! So I did the same strategy on my next opponent, and I won that match. Then I did it on the next opponent. And the next, until I was face to face with the champion, King Slender, where I did the exact same thing and won the championship title! I did it! I'm the ultimate cheese champion! And once I got the title, I was tasked with beating all the opponents over and over again in order to defend my title. But nobody could stand against me and my soon-to-be patented kicker-upper technique. So I kept winning over and over and over and over again until I turned the game off because I was getting bored of winning, which happened after 18 matches. But unfortunately it wasn't a perfect streak. I technically didn't win one of my matches, and it's all because of Starman, this Patrick Star dressed as Bongo Boy looking ass. I swear, in these later matches, he had the stamina of an Olympian dog. My soon-to-be patented kicker-upper technique barely phased him. No matter how many times I did, he seemingly get up without a scratch. And we ended up running out of time and ending in a draw. But even though I didn't technically lose, I still lost my championship title. Though that didn't last for very long because the game immediately let me rematch him. I actually managed to wear him down, I beat him, and I got my title back. Soon to be patented kicker-upper technique for the win! Now I guess I should end this segment already. Can't believe I had this much to say about a wrestling game, but I actually had a pretty decent time with it. Granted, the controls are a little stiff, the hit detection isn't all that good, and like all the other early Nintendo sports games, there isn't much content. I'd still say you're better off playing the latest WWE game, assuming it isn't a broken mess, but I also think this game at least deserves a high C rank. It's probably the best of these early sports games thus far. Oh dog, this is probably one of the games I've been regretting the most. The original Super Mario Bros. 2. Not the one us Westerners got, which I'll talk about in a later video. No. This one, later dubbed The Lost Levels, stayed in Japan, and to say it's infamous would be an understatement. But before we get all negative, let's actually talk about the positive things first. Some of the graphics got a nice touch-up. The ground is more textured, there's more background objects, there's a lot more variety in level colors, like A2 has fall colors, a whole lot of things have eyes now. The trees, the mushrooms, the bushes, the clouds, and they're always watching. Nowhere is safe. Okay, what else? You can play as Luigi. He was in the first game, but he was stuck as the second player. The sequel just guts the multiplayer, but not Luigi, thankfully. He's too precious for that. And this is the first game where he has a signature higher jump and slipperiness, which is pretty cool. Springs return. They were in the original, but they were pretty unremarkable. Here, some of them can send you to the stratosphere, which is pretty funny. Well, ran out of good things to say. It's time to bitch! You know how I said with the original that the difficulty ramps up as it progresses to the point where the last few levels are actually kinda tough? Well, this game was designed as if it just kept going and getting even harder. So as you might expect, the first world is hard, and as it goes along it gets harder and harder until it gets so hard and you're dying from bullshit so often that you just wanna scream into a pillow. Don't break your controllers, they're pretty expensive to replace nowadays. It all comes down to the level designs and enemy placements. There's a whole lot of jumping over pits, and there's some instances of using springs to cross them. A lot of them were optional in the original, but not here! And what makes them worse is that you're required to press A at the right time to get the most airtime, but the window is so tight that most of the time you'll just pathetically hop into your demise. Oh, but it's not as bad as making leaps of faith over pits with a flying enemy off the screen that you have to jump on to cross the gap, or times when it seems like you hit a dead end, but in actuality there's an invisible block you have to hit, but there's no indication of where it is, and even when you hit it, you still can't cross the gap without doing some sort of doohickey precise backwards jump. I already knew about these two things going in because I heard about them, but imagine if you hadn't. How is any normal person supposed to know about these things? And what makes these worse is that they haven't improved on the controls at all. They're the same as the original, so if you didn't like them there, you definitely won't like them here. Actually, speaking of things being the same as the original, there's a whole lot of reused assets here. Mario and Luigi, the power-ups, the NPCs, the enemies, including the Hammer Bros that are just as bad here, and bloopers that are in the overworld levels. Why? Like, seriously, there's almost nothing actually new in this game. Well, aside from the anti-power-up, I guess, the poison mushroom, in which its only purpose is to instantly kill you upon contact. And that's not the only new thing that's only added to f*** with you. There's also a warp room that sends you backwards, Jesus Nintendo, and the wind. The wind in this game can quite literally blow me! Now, if you somehow couldn't tell already, this game is terrible. Not just on its own, but also as a sequel to one of the most influential games of all time. Instead of actually trying to improve on what didn't work before, they just doubled down, no, tripled down on the bullshit. Pretty much a polar opposite to how I ranked the original, this game is going toward the bottom of D rank. Okay. So, we're finally at that mystery game that was released alongside the Disk System. You might have already guessed it, but it's so obscure that I kinda doubt it. It's an absolute cult classic. It's The Legend of Zelda. And I guess I can't keep this terrible joke running anymore, cause honestly, who doesn't know what The Legend of Zelda is? I mean, it's right up there with Mario as one of Nintendo's most recognizable franchises. Almost every major release is a critical darling. Middle-aged men wear this series on their chest for a reason. And it all started here, with a game that ditched the high score focus on most other games at the time to be more of an explorative fantasy adventure, with a fully realized world that's explained in a pretty meaty manual for the time. It was in full color too. Doc damn, this makes me miss manuals. Hey, check it out. Luigi's the first in the game because he's an epic gamer. Oh yeah, this is another big innovation at the time. Save files. This was the first NES game that let you save your progress. And you'll have to, because the manual is this big for a reason. This game takes place on a pretty sizable map, and there's secrets everywhere. Under this bush, under that bush, behind this wall, under this statue. And they range from free cash, to shops, to health upgrades, to various items, to various hints. And the amount of freedom you have in a game from this time is staggering. After you get your sword, you can go in pretty much any direction you want, with the only issue being stronger enemies the further you go. And if you're good enough, you can do some of the dungeons out of the intended order, which hasn't really been done like this up until at least A Link Between Worlds. Speaking of dungeons, they're a staple that's been here since the very beginning, and they're not the only thing. There's the most iconic characters including Link, Zelda, Impa in the manual, but she's not hot yet so who cares, Ganon, but he's not hot yet so who cares, and there's also all the iconic enemies, though most are kinda unrecognizable in-game. Like, if you told me these were sentient pancakes, I probably would have believed you. And some of these things are tough, like these ghost things were a pain that I avoided whenever I could. And there's the Dark Nuts, probably the most hated enemy in this game because you can't hurt them from the front, and it likes to bombard you with them in the later dungeons. And while I'm talking about the annoying parts everyone talks about that I kinda agree with, here's another one. The game's pretty obtuse. You've probably heard that you pretty much need a guide or at least a map to finish this game. And yeah, if you want to make it easier on you, cause it is pretty tough in the beginning even if you know what you're doing, you'll need one to find all the items and make yourself strong enough for the end. This is just because the game doesn't give you any hints on where secrets are, or where you should go next. Like, how am I supposed to know this wall can be bombed? And how am I supposed to know that one of the dungeons is hiding under this bush? This is mainly a problem with the overworld, not so much with the dungeons. Except for one of the last ones where an important item is hiding in a room behind a bombable wall that, again, the game gives no hints about, and it's not even on the map. And another one where you need to press a block to find a secret staircase that's required to complete the dungeon. Oh, but you'll definitely need a map for the final dungeon. Look at this place! It's a goddamn maze, with secret staircases you need to go down that'll throw you all over the place, and a specific item you need to defeat Ganon, otherwise you're fucked right at the end. I think it's fair to say that, since then, Nintendo seriously course-corrected these games in the years since, sometimes to their detriment. And in spite of all this, I'd like to line the room by saying that this game's still pretty good. I'm sure it'd be fun to master this game, and it's pretty influential, so despite its archaic nature, I think it's at least deserving of an A rank. Just make sure you at least have a map on the second monitor or something. Wow, another early Nintendo sports game. What a way to end the video. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this is the worst sports game I've ever played and it's getting the D rank. But why is that, you may be asking? Well, it comes down to three things. Firstly, the dog-apple controls. You press the A button to serve or receive and hold B to spike, all while holding the direction on the D-pad to change the type of serve, receive, or spike you do. That all sounds good on paper, but most of the time it doesn't even work. I'll literally try and go for a spike just for the player to do absolutely nothing, and when they actually do a spike, it's either too early or too late. Secondly, the depth perception. If there's any to begin with, there's literally tons of moments where I misjudged where the ball was gonna be, and the shadow of the ball doesn't help at all. These two things combined meant I wasn't able to score a single point. Seriously, not one! That hasn't happened in any of the other sports games. Oh, and thirdly, if the first two things don't get to you, the sound design certainly will. Like, I was only able to handle a game and a half until I rage quit, and I only recorded for 18 minutes. But probably 2 of those were from me trying to read the manual because I couldn't understand what I was doing. The only 2 things I like about this game is, firstly, why does it look like the players are constantly twerking? And what the hell are they doing to that ball? And also, the designs on the Japanese cover and inside the aforementioned manual are pretty cute. But those 2 things can't fix this terrible game. Like I said before, it's straight up getting a D rank. Hopefully the team that made this eventually made something better. Let's take a look. Wait, they co-developed Donkey Kong 94?! And that's every Nintendo game from 1986. And what the hell happened? We were on such a good streak in terms of years. By 1, but still. Last year had a few fun games, while the only one I recommend from this year is the original Legend of Zelda. And that's one of the weaker ones in the series. Oh well, at least it can't be as bad as this going forward, right? But before I send you guys off, I just had a fun idea. I'm gonna start ranking these years of Nintendo releases from worst to best. I'll do this by assigning point values to each rank, give the games points based on which rank they have, and get the average rating for each year, which I'll be using to rank them. So going back through the years I've done previously, 1983 has a score of 2.11, 1984 2.08, 1985 2.1, and 1986 1.83, meaning that, with this new ranking system, this is currently every year of Nintendo published games from worst to best. And I gotta say, the fact that 1983 is currently in the lead is very surprising. And now that's out of the way, it's time to end the video. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more of this series, and be sure to follow my Twitter. And with all that being said, I've been Marvin, and I'm gonna go patent my kick or upper technique. Peace!